Audiobook Top, your new home for the finest selection of audiobooks available anywhere.
Have you ever paused, amidst the relentless march of days, amidst the clamor of expectations and the quiet hum of your own heart, and truly asked yourself, am I living the *right* life? Not merely a good life, or a successful one, or even a happy one, but the *right* one, the one that aligns like a perfectly tuned instrument with the truest notes of your being. It is a question that, in its deceptively simple phrasing, carries the weight of 1,000 unspoken desires, 1,000 deferred dreams, and 1,000 societal pressures. It is a question that echoes across centuries, across cultures, across the very fabric of human experience. And it is the pulsating heart, the vibrant, undeniable pulse, of a grand and intricate tapestry woven by a master hand, known to us as *Middlemarch*. Imagine, if you will, stepping back in time. Not into a fantastical realm, nor a distant, alien land, but into a world that is at once familiar and profoundly different. A world where the telegraph was a marvel, the railway a thrilling new artery, and the horizons of individual ambition felt both boundless and rigidly constrained. A world, not unlike our own, where every soul grappled with the invisible threads of destiny, the tangible bonds of circumstance, and the insistent whisper of their own conscience. In this world, we meet a young woman, intelligent, fervent, brimming with a generosity of spirit that yearns for a grand purpose. She dreams of shaping the world, of bringing order and beauty and enlightenment to a corner of it that feels ripe for improvement. Her imagination, like a restless bird, flutters against the cage of her social standing, her gender, her limited opportunities. She seeks not merely a husband, but a collaboration, a partnership in intellectual endeavor, a path to doing something great. She believes, with the conviction of youth, that a grand design, a rigorous pursuit of knowledge, must surely lead to the *right* life. But what happens when the object of that grand design is not as grand as she imagined? When the pursuit of high ideals leads not to illumination, but to a peculiar, stifling darkness? What then, of the right life she so passionately sought? Then there is the ambitious young man, brilliant and full of ardor, not for abstract ideals, but for the tangible betterment of humanity through science. He envisions a life dedicated to discovery, to medical reform, to pushing the boundaries of knowledge for the good of all. He comes to this provincial town, Middlemarch, with a clear vision, a powerful intellect, and a firm belief that his path is righteous, his goals noble. He believes that to dedicate oneself to progress, to tangible good, to professional excellence, is to live the *right* life. But what if the world, with its subtle currents of financial entanglement, its petty jealousies, its unexpected demands of the heart, refuses to bend to his noble intentions? What if the very tools he needs to achieve his right life, money, reputation, influence, become the very chains that bind him, pulling him away from his grand purpose, inch by agonizing inch? Consider the young woman whose definition of the right life is painted in softer, more shimmering hues. She desires elegance, comfort, admiration. She wishes for a life adorned with beauty, ease, and social grace. She believes that a well-appointed home, a charming husband, and a generally agreeable existence, free from struggle or intellectual strain, is the highest form of the right life. Her ambitions are not grand in the philosophical sense, but deeply felt in the personal. Yet, what happens when the pursuit of this refined existence leads to a brittle, unyielding selfishness? When the desire for comfort calcifies into an inability to compromise, to empathize, to truly connect? Is a beautiful life, without depth or genuine feeling, truly the right life after all? And what of those who simply wish to live honorably, practically, perhaps even quietly? Those who see the grand schemes of others with a measure of skepticism, but carry within them a fierce dedication to integrity, to doing what is necessary, to caring for those around them. Is their right life less valid for its lack of fanfare? What sacrifices do they make? What compromises do they navigate, in a world that often rewards flash over substance, ambition over quiet duty? *Middlemarch* does not offer easy answers to these questions. Instead, it invites us into a vast, bustling panorama of human experience, a microcosm of Victorian England that feels astonishingly modern in its psychological penetration. It doesn't preach, it shows. It meticulously lays bare the intricate machinery of human motivation, the noble intentions, the petty vanities, the genuine affections, the crushing disappointments, the profound self-deceptions, and the rare moments of illuminating self-awareness. through its rich tapestry of interwoven lives, George Eliot or Mary Ann Evans, for she was a woman living her own version of the right life, charting her own brilliant, unconventional course peels back the layers of polite society, of conventional morality, of deeply ingrained expectations. She reveals how often our grand designs are thwarted by the smallest currents, how often our noblest impulses are entangled with our most mundane weaknesses, and how often the right life we imagine for ourselves is profoundly shaped, and sometimes utterly reshaped, by the unexpected turns of fate, the choices of others, and the quiet, persistent voice within. This is not merely a story about a provincial town. It is a profound meditation on human potential and human limitation. It is a journey into the moral landscape of individual choice, a dissection of the subtle forces that guide, or derail, our paths. It is a mirror held up to every reader, inviting us to examine the very question we began with, are you living the right life? And perhaps, more importantly, what does right truly mean to you? And what are you willing to sacrifice or embrace to find it? Come step into the teeming, vibrant streets of Middlemarch. Let us observe, let us ponder, let us feel, and perhaps, let us understand a little more about ourselves and about this perennial, urgent question that defines the very core of our existence. The journey promises to be rich, complex, and utterly unforgettable. You know that feeling, don't you? The one that creeps in after a particularly grueling Monday, or perhaps late on a Sunday night, as the quiet hum of the universe seems to amplify your own unsettled thoughts. It's the whisper of, is this all there is? Or the louder, more insistent demand for, what should I be doing with my life? We scroll through endless feeds, devour self-help gurus, meditate, journal, seek therapists, coaches, mentors, all in an earnest, sometimes desperate, search for wisdom, for clarity, for a blueprint to a well-lived life. We crave a compass, a guide, a sagacious voice that can cut through the noise and show us the path. And what if I told you that your next, most profound life coach isn't lurking in the latest bestseller, nor behind a velvet rope at an exclusive retreat? What if this profound guide, this wise, empathetic, and utterly unflinching observer of the human condition, has been patiently waiting for you on a dusty shelf, perhaps dismissed as just another classic? Ah, the classics! I can almost hear the collective groan. Visions of dense prose, archaic language, rigid societal structures and corsets. So far removed from our frantic, tech-saturated lives, aren't they? An Victorian novel, no less a behemoth of nearly 900 pages, teeming with characters whose problems seem utterly quaint compared to our own existential crises and student loan debts. It feels like homework, a cultural obligation, something to be endured rather than embraced. But what if, beneath that venerable, somewhat intimidating facade, lies a mirror? A looking glass not into the distant past, but into the very core of what it means to be human, now and always. What if George Eliot, whose real name was Mary Ann Evans, a woman of staggering intellect and boundless empathy, crafted a universe so meticulously observed, so psychologically astute, that it offers more genuine guidance than a dozen TED Talks combined? Welcome, my friend, to the world of Middlemarch and prepare yourself, because this isn't just a novel, it is, quite unironically, your new life coach. Let me introduce you to some of your fellow students in this grand academy of life. There's Dorothea Brooke, for instance. She's brilliant, idealistic, overflowing with an ardent desire to do good in the world, to make a grand impact, to live a life of noble purpose. She yearns for a life of intellectual and spiritual intensity, believing that a grand, meaningful partnership will enable her to achieve monumental things. Sound familiar? Do you too sometimes feel that powerful surge of ambition, that longing to elevate your existence beyond the mundane, to contribute something significant? Do you find yourself searching for that perfect partner, that perfect career, that perfect cause, believing it will unlock your full potential? Dorothea's journey, her soaring hopes, her well-intentioned missteps, her painful awakenings, they are all, in essence, our journey. Eliot, with surgical precision, dissects the difference between grand aspirations and the often humbling reality of their execution, between the purity of intention and the messy consequences of choice. Then there's Tertius Lydgate, the ambitious young doctor. He's driven by scientific idealism, determined to revolutionize medicine, to leave a lasting mark on his profession and on humanity itself. He envisions himself as a titan of progress, battling ignorance and disease with the scalpel of truth and innovation. Perhaps you felt that same pull towards a demanding career, that burning desire to excel, to master a craft, to solve a complex problem that truly matters. But Lydgate, like so many of us, quickly discovers that idealism doesn't always pay the bills, and that the grand stage of ambition is often riddled with the petty politics, financial pressures, and social expectations of the provincial town. He marries a beautiful woman, Rosamond Vincy, whose exquisite superficiality becomes a relentless drain on his spirit and his resources. The subtle corrosive power of mismatched expectations in a partnership. Eliot shows us, with heartbreaking clarity, how easily an ambitious spirit can be dulled, diverted, and even destroyed not by external enemies, but by the myriad small, seemingly insignificant decisions and compromises that accumulate over time. And what about Rosamond Vincy herself? She's charming, elegant, and utterly convinced that her beauty and good taste entitle her to a life of comfort and social elevation. She represents the seductive allure of appearances, the powerful desire for status, for being seen and admired. Have you ever been tempted to choose the path of least resistance, to prioritize immediate gratification or superficial admiration over deeper, more challenging pursuits? Have you ever felt the pressure to conform, to project an image that might not align with your true self, or with the true cost of maintaining it? Rosamond's quiet, unyielding self-interest, her inability to truly empathize with Lydgate's struggles, offers a profound lesson on the often invisible damage inflicted by ego and self-absorption. Even the seemingly lighter characters, like Fred Vincy, the amiable young man struggling to find his calling and wrestling with debt, offer a mirror. His journey from aimlessness to a more grounded purpose, spurred by the quiet devotion of Mary Garth, is a testament to the power of growth, of recognizing one's true strengths and finding contentment in unexpected places. How many of us have spent our 20s, or even our 30s, flailing, trying on different identities, searching for that elusive passion or purpose? Fred's struggle is deeply, wonderfully relatable. What makes Middlemarch a life coach then? It's not a prescriptive manual. Eliot doesn't hand out bullet points or actionable steps. Instead, she does something far more profound. She illuminates. She meticulously, patiently, and with astonishing psychological acumen, lays bare the inner workings of human beings. She shows us why people make the choices they do, the often invisible forces, societal expectations, personal vanity, economic pressures, moral convictions, ingrained habits that shape our destinies. She forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, that good intentions can pave the road to personal hell, that profound love can exist alongside profound misunderstanding, that genius can be stifled by mediocrity, and that ordinary lives can hold extraordinary moral dramas. She teaches us empathy, not by telling us to be empathetic, but by allowing us to inhabit the minds of her characters, to understand their flawed humanity from the inside out. We witness their hopes, their fears, their self-deceptions, their moments of grace, and their devastating failures. This novel encourages self-reflection without judgment. It doesn't tell you what to do, but it gives you a richer, more nuanced framework for understanding yourself and the world around you. When you read about Dorothea's disillusionment, you might recognize your own youthful idealism bumping up against harsh reality. When you see Lydgate's slow surrender to circumstance, you might reflect on your own compromises. When you observe the intricate web of relationships, the miscommunications, the unspoken resentments, the moments of profound connection, you gain a deeper insight into the complexities of your own human interactions. Middlemarch is a grand tapestry of human experience, a profound exploration of ambition, marriage, disillusionment, reform, and the subtle ways in which character is forged and lives are lived. It is a testament to the idea that even in a seemingly ordinary provincial town, the grandest moral dramas unfold daily, shaping souls and altering destinies. So, if you've ever found yourself asking, how do I live a good life? Or how do I navigate the complexities of love, work, and society? Then put aside the latest trends, bypass the glossy gurus, and pick up Middlemarch. It will not give you easy answers, but it will equip you with something far more valuable, a deeper understanding of the questions, a more profound empathy for your fellow travelers on this journey, and a more honest, compassionate lens through which to examine your own heart and mind. This Victorian masterpiece isn't just a relic of the past, it's a living, breathing guide to the enduring challenges of being human. It's a journey into yourself, led by one of the greatest literary minds who ever lived. Are you ready to begin your coaching session? The wisdom awaits. Chapter 1. The St. Teresa Complex: The Danger of Idealism. Ah, gather round, dear friends, and let us turn our gaze to the verdant heart of England, to a time when steam was a marvel and the world, though vast, felt curiously constrained for certain aspiring souls. Our story, like life itself, begins not with a bang, but with a quiet yearning, a deep-seated ache in the breast of a young woman named Dorothea Brooke. She is, to put it plainly, the very embodiment of our first lesson, the St. Teresa complex, the danger of idealism. Imagine her, then a creature of exquisite moral sensibility and an almost painful earnestness. Dorothea, you see, was born into an age that offered women of her station little outlet for their boundless energy, their intellectual ambitions, their spiritual fervor. Oh, they might marry well, manage a household, raise children, all noble pursuits, to be sure, but for a spirit as vast as Dorothea's, these seemed but puddles for an ocean. She longed for something monumental, something grandly self-sacrificing, a life consecrated to a purpose beyond the mundane. Like Saint Teresa, that passionate mystic who dreamt of founding convents and converting heathens, Dorothea possessed an almost divine discontent with the ordinary. Her very appearance spoke of this internal landscape, while her younger sister Celia embraced the fashionable silks and trivialities of society with unthinking pleasure. Dorothea eschewed all such vanities. Her dresses were plain, her hair simply parted, for she felt a deep discomfort with anything that smacked of superficiality. She yearned for profundity, for truth, for a life lived on the highest moral plane. This was not mere affectation, it was the very fiber of her being. She devoured serious books, engaged in earnest discussions, and pondered the great questions of life with an intensity that often left others bemused, even a little intimidated. Yet, here is where our theme, the danger of idealism, begins to cast its long shadow. Dorothea's ideals, though pure and noble, were often detached from the gritty, complex realities of human nature and societal structures. She saw the world not as it was, but as it ought to be, and she believed, with the innocent zeal of the truly high-minded, that she could bend it to her will, or at least, guide it towards betterment. Take, for instance, her grand project for the laborers' cottages on her uncle's estate. She had designs, meticulous and beautiful, for dwellings that would uplift the spirits of the poor, grant them dignity, and imbue them with a sense of order. She pictured clean, well-ventilated rooms, gardens blooming with roses, and families living in newfound moral rectitude. What could be more noble? What could be more altruistic? But what Dorothea failed to fully grasp in her youthful fervor was the intricate web of human desires, habits, and practical considerations. Her idealism, while beautiful in theory, sometimes overlooked the messy realities of the laborers' lives, their ingrained routines, their suspicions of outsiders, their differing priorities, and indeed, their very limited means. Her vision was perfect, but it was her vision, imposed from above, rather than grown organically from the needs and voices of those she sought to help. The danger lay not in her goodness, but in the assumption that her ideal, so perfectly formed in her mind, would seamlessly translate into the real world without friction or modification. She imagined the transformation without fully anticipating the resistance, the subtle resentments, the sheer inertia of existing ways. This tendency to idealize extended, perhaps most dangerously, to her judgments of people. Craving a mentor, a spiritual guide, someone whose intellect could match her own vast aspirations, she was, in a sense, a blank canvas upon which a suitably grand figure could be painted. She sought a hero, a scholar, a man of profound wisdom who could channel her energies, validate her ambitions, and together, they could embark on some monumental work for humanity. It is this profound yearning that sets the stage for her encounter with the Reverend Edward Casaubon. He enters her world, not as a dashing figure of romance, but as a man of learning, reputedly engrossed in a colossal work of scholarship, the key to all mythologies. To Dorothea, starved for intellectual companionship and spiritual depth, Casaubon appears as an answer to her deepest prayers. She sees not a dry, pedantic scholar, but a prophet of knowledge, a guide to cosmic truths, a vessel through which her own unspent energies could finally find their divine purpose. Here the St. Teresa complex reaches its apotheosis, and the danger of idealism looms largest. Dorothea projects onto Casaubon all her hopes, all her aspirations, all her profound needs for a life of elevated meaning. She does not see him as he truly is, a man of limited imagination, entangled in a web of self-deception and intellectual insecurity, but as the embodiment of the scholarly ideal. Her idealism blinds her, cloaking him in a grandeur that is entirely of her own making. She imagines herself assisting him in his profound labors, becoming his intellectual helpmeet, jointly contributing to a work that will illuminate the world. This is her dream of a great, self-sacrificing life, a life of purpose that mirrors the grandest spiritual endeavors. And so, we leave our earnest Dorothea on the cusp of a decision, her heart brimming with noble intentions, her mind ablaze with idealized visions. She is a woman of immense potential, but that very potential, coupled with her innocent idealism, makes her profoundly vulnerable. She longs for an epic, meaningful life, but in a world that offers few such avenues to women, she is dangerously prone to mistaking the glimmer of gold for the pure, unalloyed metal. The stage is set for a grand experiment, where the purest of ideals will confront the most stubborn of realities, and we, her witnesses, must observe the consequences. Chapter 2. The Ambitious Man's Blind Spot. And so, the quiet world of Tipton Grange, lately a vibrant stage for Dorothea Brooke's fervent ideals and Celia's simpler, more grounded joys, found itself visited by a figure of scholarship and solemn gravity, the Reverend Edward Casaubon. He arrived not with a flourish, nor with the easy charm of a country squire, but with the measured, almost ponderous steps of one accustomed to the hallowed quiet of ancient libraries rather than the verdant pathways of a thriving estate. Dorothea, her heart already primed by the intoxicating vision of a mind consecrated to vast, historical knowledge, saw in him not the aging, somewhat dry gentleman that others might perceive, but a veritable fount of ancient wisdom, a guide for her hungry, unanchored spirit. He spoke often at considerable length of his magnum opus, a colossal undertaking he titled The Key to All Mythologies. To Dorothea these pronouncements, delivered with a detached earnestness and a slight, almost imperceptible tremor of his head, were awe-inspiring. They represented a lifetime of patient, unwavering dedication, a solitary struggle with the accumulated mysteries of the ages. She pictured him amidst crumbling manuscripts, by the flickering lamplight, deciphering forgotten languages, unlocking the universe's grand, unifying design. His conversation, though undeniably a monologue punctuated by polite, but rather brief and often leading questions addressed to her, seemed to her pregnant with unexpressed depths, a vast reservoir of knowledge held back by a scholar's natural reserve. She felt a profound, almost sacred, duty to understand, to assimilate, to prove herself worthy of such an intellect, a true helpmeet in his noble quest. It was, for Dorothea, the beginning of a magnificent intellectual romance, a soaring aspiration towards a higher usefulness. Meanwhile, Celia, ever practical, ever observant of the tangible rather than the abstract, merely noted that Mr. Casaubon's teeth were rather prominent, his complexion somewhat sallow, and his manner, well, a little dull. She found herself yawning more than usual in his presence, a physiological reaction that seemed to rebuke her sister's intense admiration. She could not comprehend how Dorothea could find such a man enthralling, let alone romantic. Where was the warmth, the laughter, the simple, human connection? To Celia, the very air around Mr. Casaubon seemed to thin, to grow dry, like an ancient parchment left too long in the sun. Sir James Chettam, his earnest affections for Dorothea an open, if unspoken, secret to all but perhaps Dorothea herself, watched this unfolding drama with a mounting, cold dread. He saw a man who, despite his unquestionable learning, seemed utterly devoid of the spontaneous warmth that he so cherished in Dorothea. Mr. Casaubon appeared to him as a desiccated scholar, a dusty relic, utterly incapable of truly appreciating the vibrant, passionate spirit that animated Dorothea. Sir James's own simple, honest love, his desire for a life filled with country pleasures, shared duties, and uncomplicated affection, felt increasingly powerless against the exotic allure of the esoteric and the profound, as interpreted by Dorothea's soaring imagination. He longed to rescue her, to warn her, but his words felt crude and ineffectual against the edifice of her idealism. It was Mrs. Cadwallader, however, the sharp-tongued, shrewd rector's wife, who offered the most bracing, if undeniably uncharitable, assessment of the Reverend Casaubon. My dear, he has about as much warmth as an icebound fossil, and that key to all mythologies. I suspect it will open nothing but a dusty cupboard full of his own tedious theories. He's as dry as a collection of dead insects. Dorothea, poor child, is mistaking a dictionary for a lover, and a very old, moth-eaten dictionary at that. Her words, though delivered with a hearty, often mirthful laugh, held a sting of truth, a prescient insight that would, in time, prove devastatingly accurate. She saw the ambition, not just in Casaubon's academic pursuit, but in his very being an ambition to be great, to be respected, to be monumental. and a blindness to his own inability to connect, to nourish, to truly live beyond his self-imposed intellectual confines. The proposal itself arrived not whispered under the romantic cloak of moonlight, nor with the trembling ardor of a passionate heart, but formally, in a letter penned with meticulous, almost calligraphic, care. Mr. Casaubon, having satisfied himself of Dorothea's intellectual receptivity, her admirable piety, and her proper breeding, offered her a share in his great work and a home as his wife. To him, it was a logical progression, a strategic acquisition of a suitable helpmate, a dutiful listener, a quiet support for his intellectual endeavors. There was no poetry, no impassioned plea, only a clear, almost contractual, delineation of future duties and expectations. To Dorothea, however, it was the answer to a profound, unspoken prayer, the gate to a life of purpose, elevated thought, and moral usefulness. Her heart swelled with a joy so profound it verged on the spiritual, a rapture that seemed to lift her above the mundane world. She saw herself not merely as a wife, but as a devoted acolyte, a handmaiden to a genius, aiding her revered husband in his grand scholarly pursuit. She would read to him, transcribe for him, immerse herself utterly in his world of profound thought. The prosaic realities of marriage, of shared domesticity, of emotional intimacy, were swallowed whole by her grander, more abstract vision. She believed she had found her mentor, her guide, her intellectual destiny. Her own ambition, to be good, to be useful, to achieve a higher moral standing, found its projected perfect fulfillment in Casaubon. The news, as such news always does, spread quickly through the small, interconnected world of Middlemarch society. Celia was genuinely dismayed, her simple affection for Dorothea wounded by the thought of her sister shackled to such a dreary prospect. Sir James, crushed and heartbroken, could only retreat, his dreams of a shared life with Dorothea shattered into 1,000 pieces, leaving him with an ache that gnawed at his very soul. And Mrs. Cadwallader merely shook her head, a sigh escaping her lips, muttering about that poor child throwing herself away on a pedant with a mind like a dried sponge, who will suck all the life out of her. The world, in its various, often contradictory opinions, had spoken its piece. But Dorothea, in her sublime confidence, heard none of it. She saw only the luminous path opening before her, a path she believed would lead to enlightenment, to a profound connection with all that was truly noble and good. And Mr. Casaubon, in his stately, intellectual self-absorption, saw only a young woman who would serve as an admirable addition to his carefully constructed intellectual household, a quiet admirer who would appreciate the grandeur and profundity of his key to all mythologies. Both, in their own ambitious ways, were profoundly, tragically blind to the truer nature of the other. He was blind to the vibrant, questioning spirit beneath her admiration, a spirit that would not content itself with mere passive devotion. She was blind to the emotional aridity beneath his intellectual facade, the dry, hollow core that could never truly satisfy her yearning heart. And so, the stage was set, not for the grand, unified intellectual life Dorothea envisioned, but for a journey into the complex, often messy, and profoundly human reality that lay just beyond their carefully constructed, ambitious ideals. The blind spot, for both the ambitious scholar and the idealistic seeker, had cast its long, distorting shadow. Chapter 3. The Unseen Web of Connection. Ah, my friends, come closer, and let us peer once more into the intricate tapestry of Middlemarch, a world so much like our own, yet veiled by the passing of years. We left our dear Dorothea Brooke on the cusp of an engagement, her heart alight with a fervent hope, her imagination painting a future of shared intellectual grandeur. Now, the threads of that future begin to spin, drawing her into a pattern she believes will be of her own grand design, but which, as always, is far more complex than a solitary vision can encompass. The news of Mr. Casaubon's proposal had fallen upon her not as a sudden romantic tempest, but as a long-anticipated, almost divinely ordained moment of clarity. For Dorothea, marriage was no trifling matter of social convenience or mere affection. It was a sacred covenant, a gateway to a life of earnest intellectual pursuit and profound utility. In Mr. Casaubon, she perceived not merely a man, but a vessel for vast knowledge, a living library, a mind dedicated to unraveling the very fabric of ancient thought. His key to all mythologies was, to her ardent spirit, a beacon illuminating the potential for humanity's spiritual and intellectual elevation. And so, with a solemn joy that few could truly comprehend, she journeyed from Lowick to Freshitt, her uncle's ancestral home, bearing the news. Celia, her sister, met her with a mixture of circumstance and practical exasperation. Celia, with her simpler, more grounded understanding of the world, could not fathom Dorothea's elevated raptures. But Celia would begin, her brow furrowed in a way that suggested the deep, enduring mystery of her elder sister's mind. He is so old, and his health, they say, is not robust. And his house, Lowick Manor, it is so very dismal. Why, the drawing-room curtains alone would give one the eye-eye-jew. Dorothea would listen, a gentle, almost beatific smile playing on her lips, her gaze distant, fixed on some intellectual horizon Celia could not perceive. "Oh, Celia," she would sigh, with an almost pitying tenderness, "you speak of curtains and age. These are but the ephemeral trappings, dear sister. What does it matter if a house is not adorned with frivolities, or if a man's hair is touched with gray, when his mind is a sanctuary of profound learning? I shall be his helpmate, Celia, his humble scribe, easing his burdens, ensuring his comfort, that he may devote himself entirely to his magnificent work." Celia, with a shrug of her pretty shoulders, would retreat, defeated by an idealism too grand to be countered by mere common sense. For her, the unseen web of connection was woven from the threads of shared comforts, agreeable conversation, and the pleasantries of social life. For Dorothea, it was spun from the ethereal fibers of shared purpose, intellectual communion, and a mutual striving after higher truths. Here, then, lay a fundamental disjunction, a chasm of understanding between two sisters bound by blood, yet separated by their very souls. Then came Mr. Casaubon himself to fresh it, a figure of polite formality, his presence marked by a certain solemnity that Dorothea interpreted as profound seriousness, and Celia as unutterable dullness. He moved with a stiff, almost deliberate grace, his voice modulated, his utterances carefully chosen, as if each word were a weighty tome to be placed precisely on a shelf. He spoke of ancient texts, of philological intricacies, of the grand, arduous task of his key. As he spoke, Dorothea's eyes would shine, mirroring the imagined brilliance of his mind. She would nod, almost reverently, picturing herself alongside him, deciphering forgotten languages, illuminating obscure references, poring over manuscripts by candlelight, lost in the pursuit of knowledge. "Tell me, Mr. Casaubon," she would implore, her voice earnest, "how do you sustain such arduous intellectual labor? Is it not wearying, this incessant seeking after truths hidden for millennia?" Casaubon, with a slight inclination of his head that might have been interpreted as modesty, or perhaps as a subtle assertion of his intellectual superiority, would reply, "My dear Miss Brooke, the pursuit of knowledge is its own reward. The intellect, like any faculty, must be exercised. There are difficulties, of course. The vastness of human folly, the endless proliferation of erroneous interpretations, the sheer mass of material to be sifted, one must possess an unwavering dedication." And Dorothea, poor Dorothea, drank it all in as ambrosia. She saw in his measured tones and guarded expressions not a man cautious of revealing his limitations, but one so deeply immersed in profound thought that ordinary communication was a mere distraction. She believed his every word, interpreting each pedantic phrase as a testament to his immense scholarship. She imagined that she alone, of all women, could truly understand and appreciate the magnitude of his intellect, that she was destined to be his worthy companion on this glorious intellectual odyssey. Yet, a careful observer, one perhaps like our humble narrator, might have noted the slight tension around Mr. Casaubon's mouth, the faintest flicker of self-satisfaction in his pale eyes. For Mr. Casaubon, this engagement was not merely about a helpmate or a scribe. It was about securing a suitable, devoted, and intelligent wife who would manage his household, flatter his intellectual ego, and provide a quiet domestic sphere in which he could pursue his studies, undisturbed by the trivialities of the world. He admired Dorothea's earnestness, her genuine desire for knowledge, for it promised a quiet intellectual reverence, a deferential admiration that was deeply soothing to his often beleaguered sense of scholarly significance. He was less interested in a collaborator than in a devoted acolyte. The unseen web of connection was, in this instance, a tangled thing indeed. Dorothea, weaving her grand future with threads of idealism and intellectual yearning, was unknowingly tying herself to a man whose threads were spun from quite different material: a deep-seated insecurity, a fear of intellectual failure, and a desire for comfortable, unquestioning domesticity. Each saw in the other what they desired to see, projecting their deepest needs and aspirations onto a carefully constructed image. The engagement, then, was sealed not by a meeting of minds, truly, but by a confluence of misinterpretations, a silent agreement built on differing assumptions and unspoken needs. Dorothea believed she was stepping into a grand narrative of intellectual discovery. Casaubon believed he was securing a quiet, estimable appendage to his life of scholarly retreat. The true nature of their connection, and the profound disconnection that lay beneath, remained unseen, coiled and waiting to unravel itself in the fullness of time. For the web that binds us, my dear readers, is rarely as simple as we imagine, and often, the threads are spun from misunderstanding as much as from shared purpose, drawing us together into patterns that are both surprising and, at times, tragically inevitable. Chapter 4. The currency of gossip and reputation. The air in Middlemarch, which often seemed to hang thick and unmoving over its red brick prosperity, now vibrated with a peculiar current. It was the hum of news, the subtle yet pervasive ripple set in motion by a single, momentous announcement. Miss Brooke, the elder of the Freshett sisters, was engaged to Mr. Casaubon of Lowick Manor. Such news, like a stone dropped into a still pond, generated concentric circles of speculation and judgment, each wider than the last, until even the most distant corners of the community felt its faint tremor. The immediate reactions, of course, were found in the drawing rooms and parlors, amidst the clinking of teacups and the rustle of afternoon callers. "Well, I declare," chirped Mrs. Wall, folding her hands over her ample bosom, her gaze flitting between the sugar bowl and the teapot as if expecting the news to physically manifest. Such a match, so sudden after all. Her companion, Miss Trumbull, a woman whose life revolved around the precise charting of social constellations, nodded sagely. Indeed, one might have thought, well, one asterisk did asterisk think that Sir James. A significant pause hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications of misplaced affection and a gentleman's quiet disappointment. But it was not merely the surprise that fueled the conversation, it was the relentless dissection of motive and consequence. For Dorothea, with her earnest, searching spirit, had made a choice that defied the simpler calculations of Middlemarch. Her vision was one of intellectual partnership, of a shared pursuit of knowledge, a life dedicated to high purpose. The town, however, knew only the visible contours of the arrangement. Mr. Casaubon was well off, undeniably, with a substantial income and a position of venerable antiquity. He was also, it must be observed, of an age that suggested less ardor and more established comfort. "It's a good income, no doubt," remarked Mr. Fairbrother, the vicar, to his mother, not without a certain wistful undertone. He himself knew the pinch of a modest living, and a fine old estate. "Lowick is not to be sniffed at." "But the man himself, Camden," his mother replied, her spectacles perched on the end of her nose as she darned a sock. "They say he is dry, and not quite the companion one would choose for a young lady with such ardor." She had met Dorothea once or twice and recognized the spark. Ah, ardor. That was the inconvenient truth. For Middlemarch preferred its young ladies to be pleasantly amenable, not possessed of an inconvenient zeal for ancient languages or grand intellectual schemes. Dorothea's unique nature, which had once been dismissed as eccentric, was now, through the lens of her engagement, reinterpreted. Was it ambition, a desire for status, or simply, as some suggested with a knowing shrug, a romantic delusion that would soon meet with the cold reality of a scholar's library? Celia, Dorothea's younger sister, possessed a more practical, less questioning mind. When Mr. Brooke, their uncle, returned from his usual meandering walk, she met him in the parlor, already somewhat accustomed to the new domestic landscape. "So, it's settled then, uncle?" Celia asked, arranging a vase of flowers. Her tone was neither excited nor distressed, merely stating a fact. Mr. Brooke, always one to skim the surface of things, patted her shoulder. "Ah, yes, my dear, quite settled. Casaubon, you know, a learned fellow. Got a lot of books. Good thing for Dorothea, good thing. Solid connection. Always good to have solid connections. Not a bad prospect, not bad at all." He paused, then added, almost as an afterthought, "Though I did have a little talk with Sir James. He seemed a bit down, you know." "Good fellow, Sir James. Solid. But Dorothea, she's got her own ideas." And indeed, Sir James Chettam was down. His heart, which he had so honorably offered, now lay bruised and rejected. He rode to Freshett Hall with a heavy heart, ostensibly to discuss estate matters, but in truth, to seek some fragment of understanding, some solace in the familiar walls that had once promised a different future. His interview with Mr. Brooke was unsatisfying, as most interviews with Mr. Brooke tended to be. Mr. Brooke, with his genial vagueness, could offer little beyond general platitudes about Dorothea's enthusiasm and Casaubon's research. Sir James, a man of simple, honest affections, found himself utterly bewildered by Dorothea's choice. He saw only a dry, older scholar, not the profound intellectual companion Dorothea envisioned. His own admiration for her was rooted in her goodness, her beauty, her spirit, not in any shared literary ambition. The town, for its part, understood Sir James perfectly. His disappointment was tangible, relatable. It was the common currency of unrequited love, far more comprehensible than Dorothea's esoteric aspirations. Thus, the gossip solidified Mr. Casaubon's wealth was meticulously estimated, his lineage traced, his scholarly renown or lack thereof, outside academic circles debated. Dorothea's reputation, which had hitherto been that of a saintly, if peculiar young woman, now acquired a fresh gloss, tinged with a faint suspicion of ambition, or perhaps, a naive recklessness. Her earnestness, once seen as a virtue, now seemed a potential vulnerability, a quality that might lead her to overlook the practical realities of life. The currency of gossip was not merely idle chatter. It was a potent force, shaping perceptions, assigning value, and subtly rewriting the narrative of individuals. It flowed through Middlemarch like an invisible river, carrying with it fragments of truth, distorted reflections, and the indelible stamp of communal judgment. For in this provincial world, a woman's worth was often measured not by the purity of her intentions, but by the tangible assets of her husband, and the degree to which her choices conformed to the established order of things. Dorothea, in her sublime innocence, had dared to think beyond these confines, and Middlemarch, in its collective wisdom, was only too eager to explain her deviation in terms it understood: reputation, property, and the subtle, often cruel, arithmetic of social standing. The whispers, the knowing glances, the shared conjectures, these were the coins of the realm, exchanged freely and often, dictating the perceived value of every soul within its bounds. And even before her marriage, Dorothea had begun to pay her dues in this intricate, unforgiving economy. Chapter 5: Marriage as a Mirror. Idealism vises reality. And so, my dear friends, the die was cast, the announcement made, and the quiet halls of Freshitt Grange buzzed with an extraordinary, if not entirely joyous, revelation. Miss Dorothea Brooke, that earnest, high-minded creature, was to marry the Reverend Edward Casaubon. A match to her fervent mind, made in the heavens of intellect and purpose, but to the more earthly observers, a curiosity of the first water, a puzzle, or perhaps a lamentable misstep. Dorothea, bless her soul, saw not a man of 50-odd years, somewhat stooped, with a constitution less robust than a scholar's lamp burning late into the night. No, she saw a vessel, a grand argosy laden with ancient knowledge, a guide to steer her own questing spirit through the vast seas of truth. Her heart, so hungry for noble endeavor, had fixed upon him as the very embodiment of wisdom, a living library, a spiritual companion whose vast erudition would, like a purifying flame, consume her own ignorance and refine her being. Marriage, for Dorothea, was not merely a union of two lives, but a sacred covenant with a higher calling, a gateway to a life of profound study and shared intellectual pursuit. She imagined herself a devoted acolyte, aiding him in his monumental key to all mythologies, a task she believed would unlock the very secrets of human history and belief. Her youthful idealism painted a glorious picture, where companionship meant the quiet murmur of learned discourse, and devotion, the selfless transcription of weighty tomes. The mirror of marriage, for Dorothea, reflected an image of selfless elevation, a path to grand intellectual service. But, alas, the world is not so easily shaped by the fervent longings of a pure heart, and Mr. Casaubon, though not unkind, was certainly no mirror for Dorothea's soaring ideals. He saw in her not a fellow pilgrim on the arduous path of knowledge, but a young woman of good family, possessed of an admirable gravity, a decent fortune, and a quiet demeanor that promised little disturbance to his studious habits. A wife, yes, but more importantly, a suitable amanuensis, a presence to order his household, and perhaps even flatter his scholarly ego. His world was already complete, meticulously catalogued within the confines of his own mind, and Dorothea, for all her intellectual fervor, was merely an adjunct, an ornament to his carefully constructed scholarly solitude. The news spread, as such news always does, through the drawing rooms and rectories, igniting a flurry of reactions, each a different facet of the same uncomfortable truth. Celia, Dorothea's younger sister, ever practical and grounded, could only stare in dismay. But Dodo, she had ventured, her voice laced with a genuine, if somewhat unarticulated, dread. He is so old, and so solemn. And his house, the Lowick Manor, it's so dark and rather musty. There are no horses, and I doubt he cares for gardens at all. Celia's mirror showed her a future devoid of gaiety, of bright colors and youthful pastimes, a vision she instinctively recoiled from. Sir James Chettam, who had nurtured his own tender hopes for Dorothea's hand, received the news with a gentlemanly stoicism that masked a deep, if momentary, pang of disappointment. He was, to his credit, too honorable to wallow, but the thought of his vibrant, beautiful Miss Brooke yoked to such a severe and elderly scholar struck him as a profound waste, a willful rejection of all that was young and vital. His perspective, though sorrowful, was born of genuine affection and a sense of what constituted a healthy, balanced partnership. But it was Mrs. Cadwallader, that delightful, sharp-tongued oracle of societal truths, who offered the most bracing, and indeed prophetic, commentary. "A fine mess," she declared to her long-suffering husband, "our Dorothea marrying a fossil. She'll be buried alive in Lowick Manor, amongst dusty folios and dead languages. The poor child has a spiritual itch that will never be scratched by Latin declensions. She thinks she's marrying a Socrates, when in truth, she's marrying a walking encyclopedia, and a rather dry one at that." Mrs. Cadwallader, with her keen eye for human folly and her unvarnished wit, saw through the shimmering veil of Dorothea's idealism with chilling clarity. "It's a pity," she continued, "that when a woman has a taste for the sublime, she must choose a husband who embodies the ridiculous. She'll find his intellect a labyrinth without an exit, and his affections as warm as a January hearth with no fire lit. He'll drain her spirit with his pedantry, and leave her yearning for the very life she's so earnestly forsaken." Her mirror of marriage reflected the stark, often humorous, contrast between expectation and reality, between the romanticized notion of a scholar and the mundane truth of a tedious man. She understood, perhaps better than anyone, that Dorothea was chasing a phantom, an idealized image she had constructed, and that the man behind the image would prove woefully inadequate to her grand design. Even Mr. Brooke, ever vacillating, swung between an inexplicable pride in his daughter's clever match and a vague unease. Casaubon, a very learned fellow, he'd declare to anyone who would listen, and very old family too. Yes, a good thing for Dorothea to have someone to guide her studies. My daughter, a remarkably original young woman. He saw a reflection of his own social standing and a convenient solution to Dorothea's sometimes inconvenient earnestness, yet even his dim perception couldn't quite reconcile the vibrant girl with the somber scholar. And so, my friends, the stage was set. Dorothea, wrapped in the shimmering cloak of her own noble aspirations, stepped towards a future she believed to be illuminated by the brilliant light of shared wisdom. Yet, around her, the murmurs of skepticism and the sharp observations of those who saw clearer painted a far different picture. Chapter 5, then, serves as a crucial mirror, reflecting the dangerous chasm between the ardent idealism of youth and the unyielding, often mundane, reality of human relationships. It reminds us how easily we project our deepest desires onto others, how we construct an image of what we wish to see, and how often, tragically, that image bears little resemblance to the truth. For marriage, truly, is a mirror, but what it reflects back to us is often not what we expect, but rather, what we are truly prepared to see, or perhaps, what we stubbornly refuse to acknowledge. The grand illusion was about to begin, and its eventual unraveling would be a story for the ages. Chapter 6. The Virtue of Good Work, 7.252 Cot 1 EF1, Middlemarch. A very crucible, I often think, where the molten hopes of aspiring souls meet the cool, unyielding stone of established custom. And in this particular passage of our grand story, we find a fresh ember dropped into that crucible, ready to glow with an unusual heat. For here, we are introduced to a young man, Tertius Lydgate, whose very arrival portends a stirring, a challenge to the settled ways, not just in the practice of medicine, but in the very definition of what it means to live a life of purpose. Imagine, if you will, the gentle hum of provincial life. The doctors, Mr. Wrench, Mr. Morgan, Dr. Sprague, each comfortable in his niche, dispensing remedies as time-honored as the very cobbles of the town square. Their practice was a craft, a trade, a means to a respectable livelihood, and little more. They treated symptoms, they followed precedents, and if a patient lived, well, it was often attributed to Providence as much as to physician. This was the landscape, dear friends, into which Lydgate, fresh from the grand dissecting rooms of Paris and the intellectual ferment of London, stepped with the bright, unwavering conviction of youth. He was no ordinary young man seeking simply to set up shop. Lydgate carried within him a torch, lit by the new lights of scientific inquiry. His medical education had been steeped in the burgeoning understanding of anatomy and physiology, the microscopic wonders, the relentless pursuit of causal links, rather than mere symptomatic relief. He harbored an ambition, not for wealth or easy social standing, though his family connections were respectable enough, but for something far grander, far more profound to make a mark, a genuine contribution to the vast, unfolding tapestry of human knowledge. He was in his own mind, an instrument of progress, an agent of a new era. His mission, as he saw it, was nothing less than to elevate his chosen profession from a collection of traditions and often superstitious remedies to a rigorous science. He dreamed of uncovering the fundamental tissue, the primal fiber, the very origin of life itself. To get at the initial facts, he would muse to himself the real structural uniformities which underlay the bewildering variety of symptoms. This, he believed, was the only good work. Not merely to patch up ailing bodies, though that was part of the noble calling, but to understand the *y* of their ailments, to push back the frontiers of ignorance. And here, we touch upon the very heart of this chapter's wisdom, the virtue of good work. For Lydgate, this was not just about professional competence, it was a moral imperative. It was the solemn duty of an intelligent man to dedicate himself to something larger than his own immediate gratification. His work, he believed, should be an offering to the altar of truth, a diligent pursuit of understanding for the betterment of all. He scoffed, internally of course, at the old ways, at the indiscriminate bleedings, the patent medicines, the reliance on mere experience divorced from scientific rationale. He saw them as obstacles, as a perpetuation of error, even as a form of intellectual laziness. His ideals, however, were not without their own brand of youthful arrogance. He imagined that he, Tertius Lydgate, would be the one to usher in this medical renaissance in Middlemarch. He would eschew the superficialities of a social climbing career. He would focus on research, on teaching, on the careful, methodical accumulation of verifiable data. He was prepared, even eager, to face resistance from the old guard, for he saw himself as a pioneer, one whose path would inevitably be met with the skepticism of those entrenched in their comfortable, if unexamined, routines. And indeed, the local practitioners, observing this fresh-faced, confident young man with his strange, newfangled notions, felt a prickle of unease. He had a tendency, it was whispered, to be too scientific. He spoke of things beyond the comprehension of the average Middlemarch mind. He possessed an uncomfortable independence of thought, a disdain for the polite social niceties that often smoothed the path of provincial life. He was a gentleman, yes, connected to a baronet, Sir Godwin Lydgate, which lent him a certain social cachet. But his very intellect, his fierce desire for intellectual honesty, made him seem alien, even threatening, to those whose professional lives were built upon a foundation of routine and popular perception. Yet, Lydgate was not entirely unworldly. He understood that he needed a foothold, a practice, to pursue his grander aims. He saw in Mr. Bulstrode, the wealthy banker and devout dissenter, a potential patron who might appreciate his progressive views, at least in their moralistic zeal for improvement. But even this pragmatic alliance was seen through the lens of his overarching ambition to acquire the means to pursue his good work. For him, a successful practice was not an end in itself, but a launch pad, a necessary condition for the true, virtuous labor of scientific discovery. He held a firm conviction, too, that the new man of medicine must be more than a mere craftsman. He must be a scholar, a gentleman of intellect, capable of conversing on a range of subjects, appealing to the higher faculties of his patients, and indeed, of his fellow men. He envisioned a profession that commanded respect not just for its utility, but for its intellectual rigor and its moral dedication. His was an internal revolution, a burning desire to align his daily labors with the highest ideals of his mind. But how often does the world conspire to humble the grandest of ambitions? The path of good work, especially when it challenges the comfortable inertia of a community, is seldom smooth. Lydgate's very earnestness, his lack of compromise on matters of scientific truth, would prove to be both his greatest strength and, perhaps, his most vulnerable weakness in the intricate social web of Middlemarch. He sought truth. Middlemarch often preferred convenience and familiar comfort. He yearned for scientific enlightenment. Middlemarch valued established reputation and agreeable demeanor. This chapter, then, lays bare the glorious, yet often perilous, journey of a man who defines himself by his work, not by his circumstances. It shows us the deep-seated human need for purpose, for contribution, for a life lived in pursuit of a higher calling. Lydgate arrived in Middlemarch carrying the full weight of his intellectual conviction, believing that good work was its own reward, its own justification. Yet, as our story continues to unfold, we shall see how that radiant ideal is tested, tempered, and perhaps reshaped by the subtle, insistent pressures of life itself. For the virtue of good work is not merely in the striving, but in the enduring, and in the choices made when the path to truth is shadowed by compromise and the whispers of a world less enlightened than one's own soaring hopes. And with this young doctor, Middlemarch gained not just a physician, but a living embodiment of the struggle to align noble intention with gritty reality. His story, like a crucial anatomical study, begins here. Chapter 7. The dead hand of the past-esque narrator voice, warm, slightly melancholic, drawing us in ska, Rome. The very word, a chime struck from the grandest bells of history. For many, it is a city of revelation, where the past rises in magnificent, sun-drenched ruins to whisper tales of gods and emperors. But for our Dorothea, newly a bride and newly arrived, Rome was destined to be less a revelation and more a profound, echoing silence. Touch sound of distant church bells, faint murmur of a city awakening pocht-esque int. Casaubon's study day, a large, sparsely furnished room in a Roman villa. Bookshelves groan under the weight of ancient tomes. Dust motes dance in shafts of sunlight. Casaubon, a man of precise movements and intellectual gravity, is hunched over a desk piled high with manuscripts, meticulously copying notes. His quill scratches rhythmically. Dorothea sits opposite him, attempting to read a thick volume of German theology, but her gaze keeps drifting out the window, then back to him. Her expression is a mixture of hope and growing weariness. Strysk Dorothea to herself. A whisper asks to understand, truly understand, Stresk narrator. She had come to Rome with the ardor of a pilgrim approaching a sacred shrine, believing that here, amidst the venerable dust, her husband's great work, the key to all mythologies, would bloom into a living monument. She imagined herself a devoted acolyte, sharing in the genesis of profound truth. Instead, she found herself an attendant in a scholar's tomb, where the past was not a vibrant spirit, but a heavy, unyielding shroud. Oshtk Casaubon clears his throat, a dry sound that pulls Dorothea back. He doesn't look up. Askex Casaubonisk, my dear, are you quite settled? The light here is adequate for your German, I trust. One must not neglect the foundations. Asterisk Dorothea's, her voice is gentle, trying to inject warmth. Quite settled, Edward. I was merely observing the quality of the light. It seems to promise much, yet the air remains stagnant. Askic narratorsk stagnant. A word that perfectly captured the atmosphere of their Roman sojourn. The air in Casaubon's study was thick with the scent of aged paper and intellectual striving, yet it carried no breath of new thought, no spark of living fire. It was the air of a mausoleum, not a workshop. Dorothea sighs imperceptibly. She closes her book. Casaubon continues to write, oblivious. Postrik Dorothea tentatively. Sex, have you made a discovery today, Edward? Some new illumination from the depths of the past? Asked Casaubon without looking up. His voice precise and devoid of excitement. Progress is rarely a matter of sudden illumination, Dorothea. It is the meticulous accumulation of evidence, the careful collation of references, the sifting through the dross of centuries to extract the enduring threads. I am, as ever, engaged in the necessary task of verification. The fathers of the Church, you see, occasionally present discrepancies that require considerable exegetical effort to reconcile. Narrator discrepancies. Reconcile. These were the only keywords in Casaubon's grand project. Not revelation, not understanding, but a laborious piecing together of fragments, like a mosaic artist repairing a floor with stones long ago chipped and faded. For Dorothea, who craved a vibrant, unifying vision, this endless sifting felt like feeding on dried leaves when one yearned for ripe fruit. Ask scene change int. A drawing room in the same villa, die brighter, but still formal. Celia is sketching a caricature of a Roman street vendor, giggling to herself. Sir James Chettam stands by the window, looking out, a worried frown on his face. He is clearly uncomfortable. Ashjek Celia looking up, a bright, unburdened sound. Oh, Sir James, you look as if you've lost a wager. Do come and see this delightful fellow. His nose is quite heroic. Ashjek's, her James checks turns. A strained smile, my dear Celia. My mind is less on heroic noses and more on, well, on Dorothea. She seems changed, less animated. Ashjek Celia pouts a little. Oh, Dorothea. She spends all her time in that dusty study, trying to read those dreadful old books. I tell her she ought to come out and see the ruins properly, or go shopping for cameos. Rome is far too full of interesting things to be cooped up like a scholar's wife. Sir, James sighs yes, but she finds her meaning in scholarship, does she not? Or so I understood. I had truly hoped Rome would be the very crucible of her happiness. Strict narrator Sir James, bless his good heart, saw with the clear, uncomplicated gaze of affection. He saw the dimming of Dorothea's light, the fading of her vibrant color, and it troubled him profoundly. He, who had once dreamed of being her guide, now saw her wandering alone in a labyrinth of her own making, guided by a man who seemed more a part of the labyrinth itself. Sheik seen change into Casaubon's study later day. The light is softer now, shadows beginning to lengthen. Dorothea is still there, but her book lies abandoned on her lap. She is staring intently at Casaubon's profile, a deep sadness in her eyes. He is still writing. Skusk Dorothea quietly. A desperate plea for connection, Edward. What is it that you hope for, most of all, from this great work? What knowledge will it unlock for the world? He pauses, quill hovering over the page. He turns to her, a faint, almost imperceptible air of irritation on his face. His eyes, though intelligent, seem to look past her, at some distant, abstract concept. My dear, I have explained this numerous times. It is to demonstrate the underlying unity of all religious and mythological systems, to trace the unbroken thread from the earliest pagan rites to the Christian dispensation, to provide a definitive synthesis, to resolve the chaotic multiplicity of human belief into a coherent, overarching scheme. It is to rescue truth from the accretions of error. Narrator rescue truth. But what if the truth itself was less a jewel to be unearthed, and more a living thing that withered in the dry air of Casaubon's meticulous dissection? What if the key was designed to lock away, rather than unlock, the vibrant mysteries of human experience? Dorothea felt a chill, a profound sense of foreboding. She saw his vision as grand, yet utterly sterile. Dorothea stands moving to the window. She looks out at the darkening Roman sky, her back to Casaubon. Dorothea her voice tight with unshed tears. But what of the human heart in all this, Edward? Where is the beating pulse of faith, the cry of hope, the agony of doubt, the joy of understanding that touches the soul? Is it all merely systems and threads? Casaubon asks, his voice stiffens, a touch of intellectual hauteur creeping in such matters, while doubtless possessing their own subjective interest, are beyond the purview of a scholarly treatise of this nature. My task is to illuminate the objective framework. The subjective experience, my dear, is the province of poets and sentimentalists, not of serious scholars. Stick in narrator and there it was, the great chasm. He, dwelling in the desiccated plains of objective scholarship, oblivious to the parched landscape of her soul. She, yearning for the flowing springs of human feeling and immediate connection, finding only the echoes of ancient, dead voices. The dead hand of the past was not merely in the ancient texts he painstakingly copied, it was in the very method of his mind, the stifling grip of a bygone era's intellectual framework, pressing down on all spontaneity, all genuine discovery. It was the crushing weight of a tradition that had become an end in itself, rather than a path to living truth. Dorothea turns from the window, her face pale. She looks at Casaubon, hunched over his papers, a figure both immense in his self-absorption and strangely pathetic in his isolation. She feels a terrible sense of being trapped. Dorothea whispering, almost to herself, I see. Narrator she saw. She saw the dust not as a veil over glory, but as the very substance of his life's work. She saw the key to all mythologies not as an open door, but as an intricately crafted lock, designed to secure him within his own, lonely fortress of erudition. The vision of a shared intellectual adventure had evaporated, leaving behind a profound emptiness. Rome, city of eternal beauty, had become for Dorothea a prison of eternal scholarship, where the dead hand of the past reached out from every page and every utterance, not to guide, but to grasp and hold fast. And she, with all her ardent yearning, felt herself slowly, inexorably, being drawn into its cold embrace. The silence between them deepened, more eloquent than any words. It was the silence of a growing estrangement, a marriage dissolving not in conflict, but in the chilling vacuum of unshared dreams. Sound of the quill scratching, then fading into silence. Chapter 8. redefining success, the power of the unhistoric act. The very air of Middlemarch, in those nascent decades of the century, seemed charged with the unspoken but universally understood definitions of success. It was a language spoken in hushed tones over teacups, articulated in the breadth of a gentleman's estate, and measured in the luster of a well-established name. To ascend, to achieve a prominent station, to leave a mark legible to the discerning eyes of posterity, these were the grand aspirations, the visible pinnacles towards which ambition strained its sinews. Indeed, it was often thought that a life unchronicled, an existence without monumental deed or widespread renown, was a life somehow diminished, a faint echo in the vast cathedral of human endeavor. And yet, it is precisely in the quiet interstices of such prevailing notions that truth, like a hardy spring flower pushing through paving stones, often finds its most resolute expression. For what is the true measure of a life, if not its profound and subtle shaping of the human landscape, often without the trumpet's blare or the historian's weighty tome? The soul, ever questing for purpose, often misapprehends its own profound power, mistaking grand stages for the only arenas of consequence. Consider Dorothea Brooke, a spirit so ardent, so eager to pour her vast sympathies and keen intellect into some vessel of public good, some enterprise that would leave an indelible mark upon the world. Her early marriage, born of a yearning for intellectual partnership and a desire to contribute to a monumental work, was itself a testament to this yearning for a noble, visible achievement. The key to all mythologies shimmered before her as a beacon, promising a grand, collaborative unveiling of ancient wisdom, a work that would surely etch her husband's and, by extension, her own name into the annals of learning. Her heart, a veritable wellspring of devotion, wished to be drawn upon for something universally beneficial, something that would resonate far beyond the drawing rooms of provincial Middlemarch. But life, in its quiet, persistent way, has a habit of re-educating the most fervent idealists. The grand projects, it often reveals, are sometimes but elaborate fortifications against the very human interaction and immediate need that truly nourish the soul. The monumental work, pursued in scholarly isolation, can become a barren ground, yielding no fruit for the present living world. Dorothea, in her moments of quiet observation and dawning disillusionment, began, almost imperceptibly, to discern a different kind of success, a power far less ostentatious, yet infinitely more vital. It was in the daily rhythm of the town, in the unheralded acts of diligence and integrity, that this alternative narrative began to write itself upon her consciousness. She observed Mr. Caleb Garth, for instance, a man whose hands were often calloused, whose coat was rarely new, and whose name would likely never grace the pages of a national newspaper, let alone a history book. Yet what a profound influence he exerted. His quiet competence in surveying lands, his meticulous planning, his unswerving honesty in every transaction, whether it concerned a humble cottage or a vast estate, wove a fabric of trust and order that underpinned a significant portion of Middlemarch's stability. He did not dream of writing a key to all mythologies. He simply ensured that the foundations of new homes were sound, that boundaries were respected, and that work was done with scrupulous care. Caleb Garth's days were a succession of unhistoric acts. The careful measurement of a field, the patient explanation to a skeptical farmer, the long hours spent poring over blueprints, the quiet counsel offered to a struggling laborer, these were not events that would ever inspire an epic poem or be debated in Parliament. They were the very marrow of daily life, the unseen scaffolding that supported the visible structures of community. Yet without them, the community would falter. Without his steady hand, his unflinching sense of duty, and his sheer love for his craft, the intricate dance of land, labor, and livelihood in Middlemarch would be a far more discordant affair. His success was not in grand proclamation, but in quiet, persistent, righteous doing. Dorothea, wrestling with her own unfulfilled grand aspirations, could not help but contrast her lofty, yet often impotent, ideals with the tangible, practical goodness flowing from men like Caleb Garth. His life was not a pursuit of fame, but a steady application of character and skill. His reward was not public acclaim, but the deep satisfaction of work well done, of duties honorably discharged, and the quiet respect of those who knew him. He was a pillar, not because he sought to be seen, but because he simply was solid, reliable, and true. The power of these unhistoric acts lies precisely in their purvase. Thus, a subtle re-evaluation begins to take root in the discerning mind. Success, we learn, is not solely etched in the grand public narrative, nor is it measured solely by the scale of one's outward achievements. It resides, perhaps more truthfully, in the quiet integrity of one's daily living, in the unwavering commitment to the good in one's immediate sphere, in the simple, honest expenditure of one's best self. The unhistoric act, far from being insignificant, is the very warp and weft of a humane existence, the quiet engine that propels society forward, one diligent, compassionate, and often unseen effort at a time. It is a power that does not thunder, but rather whispers through the generations, shaping character and community with a force far more enduring than any fleeting triumph or momentary acclaim. And in this truth, even a soul as ambitious as Dorothea's might find a deeper, more attainable, and ultimately more resonant purpose. Your Middlemarch 7-day action plan. Welcome, dear reader, to a journey not just through George Eliot's monumental Middlemarch but through the labyrinth of your own soul. This is an invitation to find reflections of your own provincial life within its grand narrative. For Middlemarch is a mirror, held up to the essence of human experience, perpetually unfolding a testament to the intricate dance between individual will and societal currents, grand vision and humble reality. Let us embark upon this 7-day expedition, allowing the text to refine our understanding, soften our gaze, and sharpen our perception. Each dawn brings a new lens for your own Middlemarch. Day 1. The ardent vision of Dorothea Brooke. Begin with Dorothea, that radiant, yearning spirit, whose soul sought purpose as vast as her compassion. She yearned to mend, to elevate. Her idealism, though sometimes misguided, was a force of nature. Her struggles, dear reader, are ours. We, too, dream of making a difference. As your action for today. What are your grand projects? What ideals stir your heart? Write them down. Be honest about intentions versus any vanity. Acknowledge potential disillusionment, but embrace aspiration. Observe where your spirit strains against your personal Middlemarch. Day 2. The intellectual labyrinth of Edward Casaubon's. From Dorothea's vision, turned to Casaubon's confined mind. His ambition was monumental, his key to all mythologies a life's work, but pursued in isolation, fueled by defensive pride, an inability to connect or truly learn. His intellect became a cage. He represents the shadow of intellectual pursuit, dry pedantry, fear of inadequacy. Your action for today. Reflect on your intellectual pursuits. Are they born of genuine curiosity, or are they a shield? Do you retreat into solitude? Seek a different perspective today, engage in genuine conversation, or admit a knowledge gap. Embrace vulnerability in learning. Day 3. The allure of the superficial with Rosamond Vincy. Now, consider Rosamond exquisitely beautiful, a creature of refined taste and unwavering self-interest. Her world revolved around surface, appearances, and securing her comforts. She was not malicious, just exquisitely self-absorbed. Her charm was potent, her will unbending. She reminds us of the seductive power of ease and the dangers of superficiality dictating choices. Your action for today. Be aware of the surfaces in your life. What are you striving for that is purely external status, possessions, approval? Where do you prioritize appearance over substance? For a recent decision, was it aligned with core values or influenced by a desire to impress or conform? Choose substance over show today, perhaps through an honest conversation or by doing something meaningful without external validation. Day 4. The interwoven web and the weight of community. You've met individuals. Today, perceive the intricate web Eliot spins. Middlemarch itself is a character, an organism of gossip, ambition, rivalry, compassion. Lydgate finds himself caught. Bulstrode learns the crushing power of community judgment. No one exists in isolation, every action ripples. Your action for today. Observe your own Middlemarch neighborhood, workplace, social circles. How do individuals impact each other? How do opinion or history shape interactions? Practice conscious empathy. Listen to someone without immediate judgment. Consider how your actions contribute to your community's tone. Recognize your personal story is always, in part, communal. Day 5. The erosion of idealism with Tertius Lydgate. Return to Lydgate, that brilliant, hopeful young doctor with reformist vision. His idealism eroded, not by malice, but by subtle flaws, aristocratic pride, underestimation of complexities and Rosamond's demands, pulling him into debt and compromise. His is a tragic tale of noble aspirations dimmed by circumstance and character. Your action for today. Reflect on a time your ideals faced challenges. What were the external pressures? Internal weaknesses? Where did you compromise, and what were the consequences? Forgive past shortcomings, but learn from Lydgate, understand small concessions, and recommit to safeguarding core principles. Where might a Rosamond in your life dictate your trajectory? Day 6. The quiet steadfastness of Mary Garth and Caleb Garth asks, amidst ambitions and downfalls, Eliot offers the grounding presence of Mary and Caleb Garth. They are bedrock practical integrity, honest labor, unpretentious goodness. Mary with clear-sighted realism and loyalty, Caleb with profound understanding of land and human nature. Their lives, though less spectacular, possess deep strength and moral clarity. Your action for today. Seek out quiet virtues. Who are the Caleb Garths and Mary Garths in your life, those whose integrity and wisdom you take for granted? Express gratitude. Practice a task today with meticulous care, not for recognition, but for satisfaction. Recognize the profound value in steady, honest effort, loyalty, and practical good sense that holds the world together. Day 7. Weaving your own tapestry. You have walked a week in Middlemarch, invited it into your own. You've seen idealism, intellectual traps, seductive surfaces, community's web, eroded purpose, quiet steadfastness. Eliot's genius illuminates human motivation, interconnected lives, subtle consequences. No single hero or villain, only a vast tapestry. Your action for today. Look back at your reflections. How do these themes interweave in your life? What narrative emerges from your own Middlemarch? What lessons resonate most deeply? Commit to a conscious practice, perhaps renewed dedication to ideals, deeper self-awareness, vigilance against superficiality, empathetic engagement, or appreciation for integrity. Your life is a continuous, evolving narrative, a unique tapestry woven with every choice. Carry the spirit of inquiry, empathy, and profound realism of Middlemarch into the unfolding days. It is not an end, but a beginning of seeing your world with new, wiser eyes. In every small decision, every quiet act, you are shaping the fate of your own Middlemarch. Summary: the three truths of Middlemarch, my friends. Come closer. Pull up a chair, metaphorically speaking, for we are about to return to a place both distant in time and astonishingly familiar in spirit, the bustling, gossipy, deeply human world of Middlemarch. We've journeyed through its intricate lanes, witnessed its grand aspirations and petty squabbles, laughed at its follies, and perhaps shed a tear for its earnest hearts. And now, as we draw breath at the end of our exploration, I want to distill its profound wisdom, to pluck from its rich tapestry the three gleaming threads of truth that George Eliot, with her incomparable insight, wove into its very fabric. These aren't just truths about a fictional Victorian town, they are truths about us, about the human condition, timeless and resonant. Let us begin with the first, and perhaps most poignant, revelation that Middlemarch lays bare. The grand designs of the human spirit often collide with the immovable, mundane realities of the world. Oh, how we dream! How we yearn to make a significant mark, to live a life of consequence, to contribute to the greater good. Think of our luminous Dorothea Brooke, her soul alight with an almost religious fervor for altruism, her vision stretching far beyond the narrow confines of Tipton Grange. She yearns to be a helpmate to a great scholar, to dedicate herself to a monumental work that will uplift humanity. She marries the Reverend Edward Casaubon, convinced she is marrying a mind of vast erudition, a man whose intellectual pursuits will offer her the perfect channel for her own idealistic energies. But what does she find? A dusty, arid intellect, wrapped in self-absorption and intellectual vanity. A man whose key to all mythologies is a mere labyrinth of rehashed theories, a monument to his own sterile ambition, not to profound scholarship. Her magnificent aspirations, her hunger for purpose, are met not with a grand collaboration, but with a stifling loneliness, a cold hearth in a beautiful home. Her dreams are not fulfilled, but slowly, agonizingly, eroded by the sheer, unromantic, unheroic reality of her chosen partner. And consider the brilliant Tertius Lydgate, fresh from university with a burning desire to reform medicine, to bring scientific rigor to the provincial backwater of Middlemarch. He envisions groundbreaking research, a modern hospital, a true advancement of human knowledge and health. Yet, he finds himself ensnared by the petty politics of the town's medical establishment, by the stubborn ignorance of its citizens, and, most fatally, by his disastrous marriage to the beautiful, shallow Rosamond Vincy. Rosamond, whose sole aspiration is for outward elegance and social status, cannot comprehend his intellectual passions or his professional integrity. Her demands for an expensive lifestyle, her unwavering self-centeredness, become an insurmountable obstacle to his scientific pursuits. His grand vision slowly devolves into financial ruin, professional compromise, and a quiet, crushing resignation. This first truth, then, is a sober one: the world is often too small, too mundane, too indifferent to our most noble ambitions. Or perhaps we are simply too unprepared for the friction, the compromise, the sheer weight of ordinary life that grinds down our loftiest ideals. Eliot doesn't judge, she merely observes, with heartbreaking accuracy, how the heroic impulse often finds itself suffocated by the prosaic demands of existence. Now, let us turn to the second profound truth that Middlemarch unveils, a truth woven into every conversation, every transaction, every shared glance. We are all inextricably linked, part of an intricate web of human connection where no action, however small, is without consequence. Middlemarch itself is not just a setting, it is a character, a living, breathing organism where every individual thread vibrates in response to every other. Think of the ripples created by Featherstone's will, a document that stirs up a veritable hornet's nest of greed, expectation, and disappointment. Fred Vincy's foolish debts, the subject of countless whispered conversations, impact not only his own reputation, but also the standing of his family and the financial stability of Caleb Garth. Lydgate's medical opinions, his innovative practices, are not merely professional decisions. They are scrutinized, misinterpreted, and politicized, affecting his standing in the community and the trust placed in him by his patients. The scandalous rumors surrounding the tragic death of John Raffles and the subsequent implications for Nicholas Bulstrode do not remain confined to a secret chamber. They fester, they spread, and ultimately they shatter a man's reputation and financial empire. Eliot shows us, with masterful precision, that the seemingly private choices of individuals invariably send tremors through the collective consciousness of the town. A whisper in one parlor becomes a roar in another. A secret kept in one heart casts a shadow over many. This interconnectedness is not always malicious. It can also be a source of strength and support, as seen in the quiet loyalty of Mary Garth or the steadfastness of Mr. Fairbrother. But the overwhelming message is clear: no one lives in isolation. Our lives are not parallel lines, but intersecting strands, constantly shaping and reshaping each other. This web, sometimes gossamer thin, sometimes as strong as steel, defines our shared humanity and the subtle, often unseen, influence we wield over one another's destinies. It reminds us that empathy is not just a virtue, but a necessity, for we are all, whether we like it or not, our neighbor's keepers. And finally, let us consider the third, enduring truth that Middlemarch offers, a truth about the most intimate and often most challenging of human bonds. Love and marriage are rarely the romantic ideal, but rather a complex, often imperfect, journey requiring constant effort, understanding, and acceptance of human fallibility. Just to George Eliot, ever the realist, refuses to sugarcoat the complexities of marital life. We've already touched upon the catastrophic union of Dorothea and Casaubon, a marriage built on a foundation of intellectual illusion and emotional disconnect. It serves as a stark warning against projecting our ideals onto another without truly seeing them. It teaches us that shared goals, without shared hearts, are an empty promise. Then there's the glittering, yet ultimately brittle, marriage of Lydgate and Rosamond. He marries for beauty and social grace, failing to see the profound intellectual and emotional chasm between them. She marries for status and stability, utterly indifferent to his profound professional ambitions. Their union, born of superficial attraction, becomes a cage for Lydgate, draining him of his vitality and his aspirations, highlighting the devastating consequences of mismatched values and priorities. But Eliot doesn't just offer cautionary tales. She also presents us with relationships that, while far from perfect, achieve a measure of genuine connection through honesty and mutual respect. Consider the quiet, steadfast love between Caleb and Susan Garth, a bond built on shared values, hard work, and unshakable loyalty. Or the slow-burning, hard-won affection between Fred Vincy and Mary Garth. Their journey is fraught with Fred's immaturity and Mary's practicality, but through patience, growth, and a deep understanding of each other's true character, they forge a loving, supportive partnership. It's a love not of grand pronouncements, but of everyday kindness, shared burdens, and a profound appreciation for each other's strengths and weaknesses. This third truth, then, is about the messy, beautiful reality of human relationships. It tells us that love is not a magical cure-all, but a commitment to navigate life's challenges together, to forgive, to understand, and sometimes, simply to endure. It reminds us that true intimacy often grows from the unheroic acts of daily life, from shared silences as much as from passionate declarations. It teaches us that the greatest triumph in love is often the patient, persistent effort to truly see and accept the other person, flaws and all, within the imperfect tapestry of a shared life. So, my dear friends, these are the 3 profound truths that Middlemarch whispers across the centuries. Our grandest dreams often meet stubborn reality. Every life is interwoven with countless others, and love, in its true essence, is a demanding, imperfect, yet deeply rewarding journey of mutual understanding. George Eliot's masterpiece doesn't just tell us a story, it holds up a mirror to our own souls, revealing the enduring complexities of human nature, the subtle power of community, and the quiet heroism found not in epic feats, but in the conscientious, often uncelebrated, living of an ordinary life. And in that, my friends, lies its timeless and universal power.